All right, it's now 7 o'clock. This is Morning Express, and it's time for the way it is. In case you're joining us now, welcome to Morning Express. Joining me in studio, we have Michael Agwanda, who is a governance expert, and Ambrose Weda, who is an advocate. This morning, we'd like to look at the state of the economy. And this is on the backdrop of the fact that on Thursday, the budget is going to be read. And for many Kenyans, we wait to see what the government is going to do to raise monies. And of course, there are quite a number of things that come into play. But bottom line, I'm sure majority of Kenyans just want to know how is that going to affect their day-to-day activities, how is that going to affect the ugali on their table, the food that they're going to eat. So that's basically the conversation that we're going to have. A quick reminder of the question that we're running this morning, and I will open up the phone lines to hear what you have to say. And we'd like to find out what, in your opinion, do you think ails the Kenyan economy? What do you think ails the Kenyan economy? The hashtag we're running is Morning Express KTN. If you'd like to tweet, you can tweet at KTN News, or you can tweet me directly, and that's at Michael G. Gitonga as the Twitter handle. Remember, the phone lines are open. If you'd like to participate and let us know or weigh in on what you feel or think ails the Kenya's economy, then you're welcome to do that. So, gentlemen, let's start off with just a general overview on the economy. The Jubilee government is on its second term. They had promised that we're going to have a robust, a vibrant economy by the time we're getting to this season. That may not have happened for several reasons. And I'm sure one of the ones that they may, claim blame to is the protracted electioneering period that scared off investors. And of course, that has a ripple effect on where we are today. Whether your thoughts on where the economy is today and where we should be looking forward to?
I think we are from the bump. The economy is stabilizing, still recovering from the elections, and it is very tight on people. People don't have money in their pockets, apart from those who are able to access NYS and all these other mega areas. The rest, the money is very tight. And we are reeling from in an economy of about 1.4 trillion, 1.6 trillion shillings, almost half of it being spent on salaries. So we are a salary nation.
Salary economy.
Yes, and as a salary economy, there is little to invest. It is like when you're working and you're earning 100,000 and you consume 95,000, you only remain with 5,000, which for investment, you do not grow even if you worked for 30 years. So as a salary nation, we have very little to invest, which is only the investments which then can grow the economy and create more jobs. So what do? We have borrowed. And a lot of money is also being spent paying interest. Now, from that background, you find that Kenya now is one of the few countries where jobs in the civil service now pay higher than in the private sector. And everybody wants to join. Now, that is a problem that we have to readdress. Either we have to tax the big salaries higher so that you earn 2 million, yes, but you pay 45% of it, 40% of it as tax. Any salary beyond 600,000 is taxed at 40%. That would then work positively for the economy. So where we are is a bit tight. And it requires a bit of tightening of the belts, closing the wastages. The wastages through corruption, through majorly corruption and increased salaries. And then it is the savings that will invest on the big four. The big four require monetary investment and
injecting cash.
Cash. And that requires a lot of savings. Then also as a country, we need to turn our hearts from what do I get, the theft mentality. Everybody's looking for what to steal, what to get, to where we look at investment, both as individual level and as a country.
Okay. Mr. Agwanda, your opening remarks on the state of the economy and the fact that it hasn't grown as expected.
More recently, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Muturi, was in Mombasa. And he said that the level of discussion in Parliament is appalling. And they long for the days when the likes of Martin Shikuku, Honorable the late Kajwang were in Parliament and will really look at bills and read bills and give serious debate. And he mentioned few members of Parliament that are sitting today, like Honorable Mbadi, Aden Duale, and some other few, Aden Kerinan, and some other few that he says are really, really following up on issues of Parliament. He says the government and the Parliament at this time and hour are not even able to really oversight what the government is doing well, because they're really busy running up and about in funerals and talking about issues that really they're not supposed to be involved in, other than making sure that the bills that pass through Parliament are read, are understood, and they vote them according to their, expectation and representation from the people. My problem is we as a country are in a place where we are constantly doubling our expectation every financial year. I think last financial year we were talking about a budget of 2.5 trillion, and what we collected was about 1.7 trillion. We are not talking about 3.5 trillion, probably the budget of 2018, 2019. I don't know what we'll be able to collect, maybe 2 trillion for that reason. And as many people have said, we are today borrowing more than we could even ever think of. We are borrowing now not only to implement some of the projects that will in turn, in the long term, be able to offer Kenyans good services, but we are now borrowing to pay debts.
Pay salaries.
To pay salaries. We are now borrowing to enrich ourselves. Michael Gitonga, Kenya is losing close to about 600 billion every single year in corruption. In other words, we now need to have a department in this country called Corruption Department, because it's richer than all the counties, for your information. The money that goes into corruption is more than the money that is given to all these counties in our financial year. Perhaps this should be an investment, corruption, and then we tax that corruption if we know where it's coming from. Unfortunately, it's going into people's pocket. The money that is disappearing in the hands of people through corruption will not enable us to grow when we are continuing to borrow. You only borrow because you do not have enough to implement some of the services that you're supposed to. And for that reason, you borrow so that you can supplement with what you have. But when you borrow and that money is also stolen and it goes into people's pocket, it means we will be borrowing forever. And when we borrow forever, what is it in terms of growth for this country? We are going down instead of going up. But again, we cannot blame it entirely on corruption. We've had a very protracted campaign period that we hope we will not have such in future if the laws are looked into today. We've also had a very long rainy season that a lot of crops have been spoiled, and we need to know that also armyworms have been coming around. And the very thieves of our fertilizers, you've just seen also 2.5 billion NCPB involved in fertilizer, mixing fertilizer with glass and other things. Can you imagine a country where fertilizer will be mixed with crushed glass in it and stone so that it can be sold? I mean, where are we in this country? Perhaps we need to look at our culture and DNA and say, God, you need to help this country. When we continue projecting 5% increment in our GDP this year, or 10%, and yet people are mixing stone and glass with fertilizer, we are killing the country further. The reality is we are basing our projection on cash economy and not the development in terms of industry, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of job creation. We are constantly talking about industries, but we're not luring this industry. I continue on this, and I think I've mentioned this before. I talked to some investors who said, no, we don't come to Kenya anymore. Would rather go to Tanzania or Uganda. When you look at the corruption in Kenya Power and the money that people pay to Kenya Power, the industries are not able to come and manufacture here because the bills for Kenya Power is exorbitantly high. They can't make profit. And so you find that we're talking about manufacturing, but these guys would rather go somewhere else than here.
And come to Kenya. All right, Ambrose Weda, simple economics tells us that there needs to be a bigger saving when you have an income, instead of consuming all of it.
Yes.
Now, as a country, we seem to be going against that rule completely, because whether it is through revenue collection, whether it is through money that the country has borrowed on behalf of Kenyans, we seem to consume more than we save, or, in this case, put into development. Are we likely to grind to a halt looking at where we are today? Because the alternative for that is for the government to raise revenue through taxes.
Yes.
Kenya is already a very, very highly taxed country. And who are paying those taxes? It's those people who are genuinely waking up very early in the morning, going to work, working to earn a living, then that money goes. Your thoughts on whether we are likely to grind to a halt looking at how we run our country currently?
If we do not invest, if you want to view a national economy, you view individual economy, a person's economy. If you earn your income and you just eat the whole of it, as you grow older, a time will come when you'll go back to the village with the torn seats. That is where we are likely to reach. Fortunately for us, we have enough resources. We just need leaders to innovate. We need the people of Kenya to change their hearts so that they elect leaders who can deliver. Leaders not elected on the basis of party or the basis of tribe or the basis of age, but ability. Why do I say so? Take, for instance, Nairobi. Nairobi is, I think, the only city in the world that has a park, a real national game park. Not a single matatu going into the park. No arrangements. It is nothing. You go to Singapore. I was there recently. They have a zoo. In that zoo, there are 2 zebras, 1 small white rhino, and plastic alligators and some snakes, just a few. And to enter, you pay 4,000, and the line is big. I was told they generate billions from that alone. And it is organized. Time, when you are told you pick your bus at 10:05, at 10:05, the bus is there. And there's somebody telling you, this is it. And it is all, they have made even artificial places where people go to tour and see things. Now, as we have enough resources, take, for instance, the income, instead of taxing people who are earning 50, 30, 40, 60,000, a lot of money in this country come through house rents. We are a rent nation. Anybody who steals from NYS buys a house or builds a house. If we were just to register all this and tax people, just 10% of the rents we collect, we will have trillions of shillings. We need innovation, we need to tighten the belt, and we need leaders who look forward. If you look at the tourism sector, it is dead. It's just, we are just dancing here and there. You see the Minister Balala just dancing there and several others. If you ask me, I'll tell you several others. Basic things, nothing. We must change tune. And that only comes when we stop electing leaders based on party or tribe. The people who can deliver the job. But either you're in the wrong party or you are in the wrong tribe. And then the leaders who are elected, they go and collect their relatives and friends and family units and they pack in there. And these people can hardly move.
Okay. Mr. Agwanda, do you think that then our problem is the leadership that we have? They are not visionary, or just by virtue of the fact there is so much concentration on pilferage, people are concentrating more on how they can make gain for themselves as opposed to developing the country?
Mike, our leaders in this country, most of them, I would say there are few very honest leaders. Most of our leaders are very greedy. Most of our leaders are thieves. And most of our leaders in this country are not representing the people that sent them to parliament. And they will tell you that nobody sent me to parliament. I bought my ticket from the party. And when you come from certain regions, by having the ticket of the right party, you're already a member of parliament. And so they really don't care what people think about them over there because they bought their way there. They're not leaders elected based on values and virtues. They're not leaders that are elected based on their performance and career history of fighting for injustice in this country and the lowest in our society. They're leaders that have stolen money. In fact, I was talking to a gentleman who is a CEO in town, and he says, oh, I was with a friend of mine who's been in politics, and said, why did you go into politics? He said, politics is meant for people who've worked in the government, stolen money, and then they can dish it out there. That is his mentality of leaders, and he's a very senior government official. That is his mentality of leaders in this country. Our leaders do not go there because they want to represent us, but because they also want to drive the big vehicle, they want to live in big houses, and they want to own hotels and many other things that others do not have. And then only wait until the last minute and go back. And they don't talk about issues. They make sure that the longest line of the leader, that's perhaps the next guy will be your MP or an MCA, regardless of whether he's stole that money that he's giving you or not. What is talking about in terms of even investing a little bit on our tourism? I've lived in the West for a very long time. In every city in the West, however little it is, there's a bus. And it's so all funny bus. It has bigger windows. It has air on the top, you know, and it's called a tour bus. That bus, all it does is every guest that comes around is given a map of the city, is given some historical site, and they're told you can tour the town and see what we have, when you pay this extra amount of money. The historical sites, even the Dedan Kimathi and the Tomboya that have statues in town, that alone should be enough for us even to have guests come all over the world to even tour our beautiful, architectural building, Parliament House, where they could just come and pass through Parliament and feel like I went to Parliament, but they pay for it. That alone should be able to even help us in the gap of this deficit that we have in this country. But we are not creative. We are like the county government that is looking for the big money from the central government. And so we are also looking for the big money as a country from these manufacturers, forgetting that that might be a fixed amount of money every year. But when you're creative and you involve people and outsiders in many other scenarios that this country have, we will get more money than we could ever think of. And let me tell you, I guarantee you, Mike, that we will see less money collected in this country in the subsequent years or in the coming years because we have oil. People are going to develop a very cold feet in giving money and say, but we have oil there, we should be cashing from it and not getting serious, because now the entire focus is going to go to oil, the entire focus is going to go to Mombasa, and then when you focus on that, the rest of the country will sit back and watch and say, but what is the government doing for us? We have leaders that are not even able to read a 100 or 200-page bill in Parliament and understand it. How can you oversight a document that you do not understand? And you know what the executive does on our leaders? When they know that there is a pork in it. A pork simply means that there's something little there that has been added on top of the bill. It's called a pork in the US. And so a guy looks at the bigger picture, but he does not know that there's some fine prints in that will benefit the executive. And because they have no idea, they get 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 a year. And because their salary sometimes runs up to 50,000 a month because of the deduction, if you get 100,000, you're ready to go back to your constituency and bribe some people. And so you are happy, but you don't know that the pork has taken your next 5 years in terms of the development of the country.
All right. Ambrose Weda, do you think that it's money that we don't have as a country? Because we've talked about all these innovative and creative ways of the government raising revenue through tourism, through now we have oil. We have quite a number of resources that we can look at. But even with the resources that we have, yes, is it that we don't have the money, or is it because of pilferage? And the reason I ask this is because regardless of how creative and innovative we are with the money, could we just be raising more money that will just become, a resource for those who are able to steal?
I always teach that you don't look for money. Money is supposed to look for us. As a country, as an individual, money is supposed to look for you. You become so valuable. You become so valuable that people look for you. They line up to give you money. People should be lining up to see where Obama's father was buried. People should be lining up in Kapingura to see where the Kapingura 6 were. jailed. They want to see where the founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, is Gatundu House, the first house. Want to see. People should be learning how to see Jaramogi's home and the original home and the flyways and all these things. Do you understand? Why do I say so? When I went to Singapore, they have a small forest. I think it's about 5 acres. A quarter of Baboreta. And it's been cleaned inside there. They take you there and they say, it has the oldest indigenous forest in the world. The trees of blah, 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 blah. And you have paid the equivalent of 40,000 Kenya shillings.
Just to get into a fake forest.
So what am I saying? We have resources that will attract money. They have attracted money before. We have some of the best marine parks in the world, the whole world. We have some of the best people, the best names, the best runners, the best what. And when you mention Kenya, they'll tell you at least athletics. We have the biggest freshwater lake, I don't know, in Africa or the world. All this, we have resources that will attract money, free money. You know, tourism money is free money. If we have so much money, even those who are stealing will just scrape through, because there's too much of it. And if we put our taxation properly and our IT properly, if you steal $1 billion, you have nowhere to put it. And then you declare it. You declare, now I have $1 billion, because it will be seen. Then we deduct 60% of it as tax before we also charge you. We take tax, then the rest you don't explain, we charge you. That's how you limit corruption. So we have enough money. We have enough resources. It is the way we employ it that is dwindling. We are eating instead of reinvesting. Let us reinvest. You look at the railway. Look at the railway from Nairobi to Mombasa. You have seen the amount of money is generated. You have to book 3 weeks in advance. That shows you that the appetite is there. All you need is to attract. So our leaders, Nairobi alone is a historical site that should be sold. But I don't know whether they're going to sell garbage because of leadership. When you wake up and you find leadership has moved to another country, some people have done what, you just go and say, the people of Kenya must change their heart and say, we want leaders who will be able to innovate, remove. We have enough money, enough wealth. It is how we rake out from it that brings a problem.
All right, Mr. Gwanda, we have the budget to be read on Thursday. What are your expectations from that budget? What do you think the government is likely to do for them to raise the money? Right now, we are reeling in debt, and chances are we could also be borrowing some more soon. But what are your expectations of the budget?
Eurobond 2 has just been sold, and not much has been spoken about it. We are also borrowing from our local banks, and so is the international community. I think there is a law in Parliament that is asking Parliament to approve even a higher borrowing threshold for this country. It is already in Parliament. I think it should be passed very soon, because I don't see why the parliamentarians should not pass it, because they really don't know why we need to pass it, but they will anyways. I want to see a serious involvement of the government into the lives of the people. How do I want to see that? I want to see genuine fertilizers procured in this country. I want to see more investment in our farmers in this country, because that is what drives them. There are more people doing farming in this country than anybody working. And you know what? They get abused every single day. I want to see more money pumped into the cash crop, whether it is sugar, in Western Kenya. I want to see Moroni being uplifted and their debts being wiped out and paid by the central government. Moroni factory is not even working now because of mismanagement. And not just mismanagement, but remember, can you imagine how many families are affected because Moroni Sugar Company is not working? And nobody is talking about this kind of things. I want to see the people that are doing tea be given some incentives to continue continue doing tea, because some of our major cash crops like tea and sugar, coffee are going down. And these are some of the things that were selling this country besides athletics, because we were known to be one of the, I think we were about number 4 in the world in production of coffee. We were about number 3 in the world in tea. Where are we today? Why are we letting our glory go? And I want to see the budget touch on some of these agricultural areas, so specifically to change the lives of the people, not just the ones in the cities who are earning money and stealing money from NYS, but also the ones in the villages. All they depend on is 2-3 acres of sugarcane. All they depend on is 2-3 acres or 5 acres of maize. All they depend on is nuts and cashew nuts and all that, so that the money can percolate into the ground and that the poverty level will diminish a little bit. Because if you empower people in the villages, they will take their children to school, and we will see a revolution in the next 10 years. But if we don't empower these farmers that makes the biggest population of this country, then we are cheating ourselves that we will build roads and industries, and it will only have very few people. I wish we will think hands-on and think of the people that drives this economy. The people that sometimes we send them money every rainy season or dry season, those are the people, to me, I will target, like the semi-arid area. How do we ensure that there's water in those areas? When we do that, we are empowering and growing a country as a whole. But when we concentrate on some development issues and also leave so much money in Nairobi, what we're doing is we're just encouraging theft, and we will be in a long haul before we see true development in this country.
Taking place. All right, Ambrose Sweda, your thoughts and expectations of the budget?
I expect, first of all, the budget to continue addressing questions of insecurity. It makes the economy very expensive. So expensive that even when you are constructing a simple kiosk, a simple, ordinary kiosk, you'll have to spend thousands of shillings doing grilling, doing concreting, doing what, and then you employ an askari. All those are not good for business. You go to other countries where people live, they leave their cars outside, they leave their bicycles. I saw in Singapore bicycles, you ride, there's a bicycle you ride, when you reach standard, you leave it there. I just said, hey, if this was Kenya, someone would come with a lorry at night and you collect all of everything. You wake up in the day and you find, and there's electricity everywhere. If you saw that the drive that brought electricity nearly to every home, it means it is doable. So security will have to continue to be addressed, infrastructure, repair what the rains have damaged, and continue building to open up the country. We also expect education, because there's going to be change of curriculum. We need more teachers, and then the question of health, again, that has to continue be addressed. But above all, we have to look beyond taxation. So money has to be invested in agriculture, both at national level and at county level. I still see people in the village still saying that fertilizer in Aribu, mchanga. And then they don't plant hybrid seeds.
But it's no surprise if it's being mixed with glass. Maybe that's why.
So a lot has to be done on that, so that it appears the president has the focus, the deputy president has the focus, some few people have the focus, but others, I think, are just swinging there. I expect the minister in charge of tourism to be as vibrant as the minister in charge of internal security, so that we move. Parliamentarians, on the other hand, must increase their level of oversight. They should stop supporting we are Jubilee. This is a Jubilee bill. We cheer it. They should scrutinize it, bring in suggestions, shoot down certain things which are not good, add things which are necessary, so that the country moves. We have elected them to sit there to oversight at this time and to generate ideas. We expect that this big budget should move us forward as we watch borrowing.
Okay. Mr. Agwanda, one of the biggest budgets we've ever had of. I mean, it's sometimes even difficult to conceptualize how much a trillion is, let alone the 3 trillion that we're expecting to be part of the budget. Your thoughts on whether that really is our solution? And if that is realized, the amount that the budget is likely to take is realized, is that likely to catapult us to at least a better place in terms of growing the economy?
A government has never done a budget that it has been able to collect. Maybe there's some governments in the other parts of the world where they are very, they're very objective on how they do the budget based on the economy and the growth of the economy. But Kenya has never hit the target. Our KRA has never been able to raise money that is budgeted for the country. And so the most unfortunate thing is as the Kenyan government budget, puts up a budget out there, they're always putting up a window of borrowing. And I don't know, but, just a number of years ago, President Moi retired, literally went into no borrowing freeze. And I think it was about 2 years we never borrowed and nobody gave us money, and we still manage. How I wish that the greediness of this country of ensuring that we have money for everything we want to do, even if it's being stolen, will stop. And that we can budget. And even if we miss the target just a little bit, we will still be able to operate. Kenya has resources, and Weda and I are agreeing on this. We have resources. We have the biggest port in this region. We can generate a lot of money if we put serious, surveillance in that place, and money that is being lost in containers that are supposed to go to Uganda and find themselves in this country. That money can also go into KRA, and it will build into the income of this country. Kenya loses money, billions, in terms of corruption. We can make sure that we are corruption-free in this country. And if we are corruption-free in this country, it will mean that many people will go to jail. And when they go to jail, people will be contented with what they have. Some of this money is not even building houses, as my friend here is saying. Some of it is just being blown into this bars every single day. When you go and find people drinking from fast to fast, you're wondering, man, you must be a billionaire. But how much are you earning to be a billionaire? And you have entertained all this number of people. And then we've become a tourist nation. Even the locals here are touring everywhere. I do not deny that we can't tour. Most of this money, I know people who've stolen the money, the first thing they think of, oh, let's go to India, let's go to Japan, let's go to this place. But at the expense of people that otherwise would have used the money. So what I'm saying is if we stamp a corruption, even by 3/4 way in this country, we'll have so much money that perhaps we can meet, the deadlines, right, the expectation of our revenue in this country. Right. Last but not least, I want to say this. There are 3 arms of the government that are very, very key, and the 4th estate, of course. If the government, the executive, will not be able to work with the judiciary, and they're not able to work well with the parliament and as well as the Senate, we'll still have this crack. When you have the parliament saying, oh, we are superior than the senators, and the senators saying, oh, we know we are superior, and the judiciary being threatened every now and again, it does not augur well for the growth of economy of this country. But last and not least, we can't have our judiciary staff not have health insurance. That is a no-go zone. When you start intimidating the people that you will take all the cases to, let me tell you, we are shooting ourselves in the foot, as the Americans say.
I'll have to stop you right there, Michael Agwanda, to get your closing comments. Whether very briefly, we need to wind up.
Yeah, all I can say is that let us remain hopeful but vigilant. Let us do our part, seal the parts of corruption, and also go to work. Let us work. Let's not wait for government. Let's work and achieve and deliver and leave a legacy.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll have to wind it up right there. It's now 26 minutes to 8. That is the state of the economy on the way it is. And our guest this morning, Mr. Michael Agwanda, who's a governance expert, and Ambrose Sweda, who is an advocate. Thank you for joining us. For now, we're going to take a short break, but do stay with us right here on Morning Express. We've got more coming up for you.
This is KTN News.